Hello, welcome to this new parent webinar. My name's Nicky Stewart, and today I'll be talking to you about creative supports for your children during this current lockdown period. So, for those that don't know me, I'm a BACP accredited counsellor. I work also for Mental Health First Aid England as an adult youth instructor, and I'm a clinical supervisor. So, today we'll be looking at parenting during the current lockdown period and use of metaphor and story with your children to enable emotional expression and how to help your children manage their feelings creatively. So it's good to acknowledge that this lockdown is the hardest one yet, and a lot of that is to do with the current weather, the season, and how that actually we're not looking forward to Christmas as we were during lockdown two. Lockdown one was generally during the good weather that we had last year. So it's pretty important to acknowledge our feelings. So at school, you know that we have the Buzz Club available on the YouTube channel or on Teams, and we also hold these parent webinars for you to be able to come along and talk about how your experience of lockdown is at home with your children. And it's important to remember the journey towards back to normality is in the distance. This won't last forever. I think that's important for us to put out there. So this image here, I'm going to invite you now just to pause and take a moment to pick a box that resonates with you. Now, each of us will be having a different experience of lockdown, so it's important that we find out how we're feeling. And it may be that every day you're feeling a different box here. And this is a good tool to check in with your children as well, just to see how they're feeling. And it's important to pick out the hope in these because each box has different areas of disadvantage, but there also is hope available within each. So again, we need to acknowledge that anxiety does present itself very differently within each of our children and ourselves. So have a look at this graphic and see how you're noticing anxiety in your children. Again, every interaction is an intervention. So this is an image by Dr. Karen Treisman, a clinical psychologist, and it encourages us to understand that even though we're all at home together during this lockdown period, that you as parents can have an interaction with your children that can be considered an intervention. You don't have to be a therapist to be therapeutic. So it's really helpful to know that with your children. Now, I love this quote by Plato. It looks at how you can discover more about a person in an hour of play than a year of conversation. And the whole of basis of my therapeutic approach with children is based on play and metaphor. So we're going to be using some interventions today that you can use at home with your children that will enable them to have that sense of emotional expression. And again, you don't have to be a therapist or to interpret or to analyze this. We're going to stay with the metaphor of the story. So it's fun and it's playful. Now, we know that the left-hand side of our brain is where we have the analytical thinking, and the right side is more of our creative side. So this intervention we're going to use today really taps into that right side of our brain to enable that creative expression. Now, how do you nurture your children's play and metaphor at the moment? Now, let's have a look at this graphic by Play Matters. Now, at the top here, we can model healthy and playful behaviour. We can play and have fun. We can help children work through real life situations in their play and view their behaviour as a window to their needs and feelings. Actively listen and observe and respond calmly. And talk openly about feelings and emotions and encourage friendships, whether that be online or with siblings at home. And limit screen time on devices. Now, we've talked about this, it's important in previous webinars that we have time away from our screens. And that's not just our children, but us as parents as well. And set clear boundaries and be consistent. So play can be really helpful to nurture that emotional well-being. Now, we're going to be using stories today, and stories connect us to unconscious feelings and does enable that greater expression of emotions. And using story and fiction is safe because you're talking about the story, the characters within the story, and not actually having to own it as a person yourself. So these cards are from a game called Dixit. That's Dixit. I really recommend these. The game is fun, but also the cards to be used separate in isolation to enable children to choose an image that might resonate with them that day and just make up a story about the image. So if you go to an image that jumps out at you at the moment, it doesn't have to be one that you particularly like, but one that your eyes keep returning to. And then if you would like to pick out a story for that, think about your character. What does it need? What's it doing? What's the setting? Why did you choose that one? And think about that for you. And then once you've got your head around that as a parent, you can then in turn use these with your children. And they have really great results with children to be able to help them express themselves. And you stay within the story. You don't actually take them out of that. You don't question, why did you choose that? That image looks like you. How are you feeling? It's all about the character. So, for example, if I take this one here at the bottom, the scarecrow in the field of sunflowers, we talk about how the scarecrow feels. What's it like to be in the blue sky? How are the sunflowers? What stories happening here? Where is the setting? What does this scarecrow need? So talk about everything within the story and the metaphor. Also, another one you can use is fairy tales. This is really good. So if you invite your child to pick out their favourite fairy story and maybe a scene that stands out to them, so particularly a scene within that fairy story, and get them to draw that scene. Now, without realising it, they'll be picking a scene that resonates with them and their current feelings. So it's really good to be able to pick out that scene and see how they draw it. And then reflection time. So talk about the image that they've drawn. How are the characters feeling? What's happening? What do they need? And that enables that sense of emotional expression. So you're not being therapists, but you are being therapeutic in enabling that sense of emotional expression. There's a lovely game here that an educational psychologist has designed, Laura Jane Halton. So I've put the links to this at the end of the webinar so you can download this. She's made it freely available for everybody very generously. And this is a lovely game that's adaptable. You can have some wellbeing slots here so you can invite your children to really pay attention to what helps them with their own sense of wellbeing. Another really useful intervention is guided imagery. Now, a lot of teachers use this at school, so we have some time and space where we can have that moment to be mindful. Now, I'm going to put some links to YouTube guided imagery sessions for you to use at home with your children. And it's just how we direct our thoughts. It really guides us towards a sense of being relaxed and focused. And it is based on the concept that your body and mind are connected. So if we use all of our senses, our body responds as if we're imagining it for real. So it's not just a mental activity, it involves the whole body. So it gets you in a relaxed state that you're able to then visualize these images. Now, there's a particularly nice one here called The Underwater Adventure, and that's available on YouTube, and it's aimed at children between 6 and 12. And the narrator has a very soothing and calm voice that enables you to become part of the scene that you watch within the image on screen. And that's one obviously you're going to look at. The next one I'm going to show you is a company called New Horizons Holistic Centre. There's many videos available on YouTube, and they also have an app you can download. This enables you to help your children with these guided visualizations. And these ones are with the eyes closed, so you listen to the narration and then you go on the journey with the narrator. And everybody's experience will be different. It's just a place to have that sense of relaxation and mindfulness. So I really invite you to go and check these out and see what you think of them. Now, another way to invite emotional expression is to use films. Now, you may have a copy of this film at home, Inside Out, or if you subscribe to Disney Plus, you can have a look at this. This film is really great because it covers the 5 core human emotions, and it talks about a story with regard to a young girl who really needs to be able to manage her emotions. So there's some talking points here that you can use with your children at home, which again, we stay in the metaphor of the film. So we could check out the main character is called Riley. We can find out, why is it hard for Riley to tell her parents how she is feeling? And sort of invite your children to have a discussion around the film. And what's it like to have mixed emotions? And we can also check in with how different feelings relate to each other. And you could also invite them to draw what might be going on in their own head once they've watched the film, because we do see that we go inside Riley's head, the main character, and we get to see these characters personified. So have a look at that film. And there's a worksheet here as well. So if you think about each one, happiness, sad, worried, angry, how does happy make me feel? And what can I do to feel that emotion? Another good way for emotional creative expression is the use of Play-Doh. Now, we've talked about this on past webinars. Now, Play-Doh is very tactile. It enables you to shape and mold an image or a colour or a shape in terms of emotional feeling. So Ask your children where they experience that feeling. It could be that they're noticing it in their head, their throat, their chest, their tummy, and then get them to shape that in the Play-Doh. And once they've shaped it, then they can decide what they'd like to do with it. Does another piece of Play-Doh need to come in to model it? Does it need to be cut into pieces? Do you need to put it in a box? So that sense of discharging that feeling is how they discharge with the Play-Doh and make sure that's put somewhere safe. I love these blob trees. We've used these before in previous webinars, and I will put that resource out there. This one's a good one to use on screen because it's been labelled. I've adapted this blob tree, and we've also added one here for somebody that's self-isolating. So check in with your children about how the blob is feeling. And all the talk is about the blob. It's not about the child or yourself. So again, even if they choose this O falling blob, you can find out how O's feeling. What does O need? Is there anybody on the tree that can help O? And over here we have a mood ladder. Now I use this with children in one-to-one therapy. It's really good to normalise all of these feelings from 1 to 10. And at any one time we'll be moving up and down that ladder, and all feelings are okay. What we want to help our children with is once we get up here to maybe 6 on the mood ladder, that we try and help them to discharge and they come back down the mood ladder. Because once we get up to 8, there's no going anywhere other than up. Now you may find some children when they get to 10 may lash out, throw things, or some might hide it and you might not even see that they're a number 10. So it's important that we enable healthy emotional expression. So how to express anger in a healthy way. All of these feelings are completely normal. So if we help our children when we get to here, we won't find that they're reaching here. And again, on the YouTube channel for Buzz Club or the School Homewood House YouTube channel, there is a video on creating a calm box. Now this calm box enables children to put things in the box that soothe them, and it appeals to all 5 of their senses. So I really recommend you have a look at that and make one or create one at home with your children. The next slide is about blob worry. So ask your children to pick a slide or a blob there that makes them express how their worry may feel. And again, we talk all about the blob, not about your children. So it's really important that with this period that we notice the feeling, we name it, we sit with it, and then we let it go. Now that process enables children to become emotionally literate, enables them to be able to know that all feelings are okay. What's important is how we let them out in a safe way. Now I really like these Guatemalan worry dolls. You can make these at home with your children. Now there's just the emotional expression of telling a worry doll what the worry is and then popping it under the pillow at night enables the children to express that worry. And you can make these at home out of pegs or old matchsticks. So I recommend those as well. Worry monsters, these are available online, or you can even make a worry box at home. So it gets your child to really create that and make it and get in touch with their creative side. But then what they do is write down their worries and then they pop it inside the worry monster or inside their worry box. And then the theory is that just by expressing that worry, it does help regulate them. I have a wellbeing Padlet if you'd like to access that. Now lots of links on there to help you support your children, and the links for that will be at the end. Deep finger breathing. So if you use your hand, deep breathing. So as you go up the thumb, you breathe in and then out, in and then out, in and out. So if you ask your children and invite them to follow their finger along their hand, then with that deep breathing can bring a sense of relaxation and calm. And it's always important as parents you look after yourself. We know that really adults that are regulated can then go on to help regulate their children emotionally. So they will pick up on your behaviour and your emotions and how to deal with their emotions during this difficult time. So it's really important we regulate ourselves as parents. And check in with yourself. How are you feeling? How are you looking after your well-being? Are you eating well, sleeping? Are you drinking enough water? Talk about how you're thinking. What are your thoughts saying today? Are you having unhelpful thoughts? And look at your stress container. Now, Mental Health First Aid England invite everybody to sort of see what's going on. Stress is flowing. The vulnerability depends on the size of our container. And this tap, we can open it and let the stresses flow out. But sometimes this tap gets blocked. And what happens is then with this emotional snapping happens when it overflows. So it's really good to notice what opens your tap and helps you let those stresses flow out as a parent. Now, at the end of our session, we can use our grounding techniques. And this is a nice one to help your children if they're feeling a bit wobbly. Again, connecting with all 5 senses. So 5 things they can see, 4 things they can feel, 3 things they can hear in the room, 2 things that they might have smelt that day, and 1 thing they tasted. And just by talking about these 5 things really helps us calm and regulate. So try that out with your children at home. Now, there is support available for anybody that is parenting at home, whether that be for children that are older or younger. There are supports available in signposting. I recommend the Young Minds website, they have a lot of resources. So it's really important to remember and to conclude as we come towards the end of our webinar today that this will pass. It won't stay like this forever. And it's important that we all know that we can have a sense of hope in this period. These webinars will be available every week during term time whilst we're during lockdown. Once we return to school, I will remain available face-to-face for our school community once the restrictions have been lifted. So if you'd like to contact me, my email is nstewart@holmwoodhouse.co.uk. Please drop me an email and I'll be happy to answer any questions or support you in any way I can. It's been my pleasure to share these resources with you. And if you'd like to contact me, please do. And in the meantime, take care. Thank you for attending today. And here's a list of resources for anybody that would like to use them.